Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called The Unbroken Promise, written by Captain Capslock. The synthetic ale tasted like copper and ambition, but at 22, sitting on a rusted fire escape overlooking the low-orbit shipyards of New Mumbai, none of them cared. "It's bureaucratic murder," Morgana said, slamming her glass onto the metal grating. "The Keymans just took another system in the Perseus arm. Entire families, people who spent their life savings to lease the terraformer, just kicked off their dirt because it wasn't properly logged with the Galactic Council. It's a farce." "The Council only protects the species who can afford the lawyers to write the treaties," Devon muttered, staring at his datapad. He was the quiet one, always seeming to be listening to the background radiation of the galaxy. "The Keymans know exactly which sectors are too poor or too remote to register. They play the legal system like an instrument, and then they send in the dreadnoughts." Rusk, his hands permanently stained with the grease of 1,000 bootleg engine overhauls, shook his head. "If you give me a warp core, a wrench, and enough plasma tape, I don't care who registered what. A home is a home, and I'll defend it." Reeves looked at his friends. They were young, green, and full of naive fire that comes before the universe tries to break you. Humanity had only made first contact a few decades prior, and already the galaxy felt cold, segmented, and cruel. It seemed the most sentient life cared only for one thing: itself. "Then we make a pact," Reeves said, his voice grounding the table. He looked each of them in the eye. "We finish the academy, we pull every favor, to take every bad deployment until we get on the same deck. And when we're out there, under the back, we don't look at the registries. We don't look at who has the bigger credit account. If it's alive, it's equal to us. If it's hurting, we help it. Every intelligent soul deserves a chance at life under the suns. Let's make that promise to ourselves." "To the dark, and the promises kept," Morgana said, raising a glass. "To the dark, and the promises kept," they echoed. A galaxy away, a world of Jonga breathed. It was a miracle of a planet, rich, heavy loam that practically begged to grow things, regular rains that smelled of familiarity, and a sky the color of home. For a century, the Bruma had poured their hearts into the soil. They were a people born of harsh, rocky crags. The Junga had softened their calloused edges. Here they grew the ancient cover grain, building sprawling, low-slung homesteads beneath the shade of towering native ferns. Because they had known peace for generations, they drew complacent on Junga. The Bruma were proud warriors by blood, celebrating bravery, bloodlines, and the glorious sacrifices of the shield wall. But Junga was a world of farmers. They had no orbital defense platforms. They had no heavy shield generators. They had protection enough for pirate fleets, but no more. The grain they grew was something only they could digest, and the air something only they could breathe, so that it did not think any other species would lust for their world. They had old traditions, sharp blades, and a deep, abiding love for the land they had bled to tame. Humanity's relationship with the Bruma was at best a powder keg. They were neighbors in a crowded sector, and neighbors inevitably fight over fences. There had been border skirmishes, vicious, brief clashes in the grey zones of space where ships were lost on both sides. To Earth's Central Command, the Bruma were an aggressive, unpredictable threat. A total, devastating war felt less like a possibility, and more like an inevitability. But on a quiet afternoon, it wasn't the humans who came to the Junga. The sky tore open, and 3 Keyman heavy cruisers slipped out of the fold, their hulls jagged and predatory. They didn't hail, they didn't offer terms. They simply opened their ventral bays and began a systematic orbital cleansing of the surface. In the valleys of Junga, the Bruma looked up as the clouds turned to liquid fire. The automated SOS towers pulsed out a desperate, screaming broadcast into the void. But the local defenses fleets were hours away. An elderly Bruma farmer stood in his burning courtyard, holding his grandchild against his chest armor. He didn't cry out. He watched the sky fall, his warrior blood burning with the bitter, agonizing shame of dying without a weapon in his hand, helpless against the cold malice from above. He closed his eyes and awaited the end of his line. 30 years had passed since the fire escape in New Mumbai. A modest dual-purpose exploration vessel dropped out of wharf on the periphery of the Bruma border. On the bridge, The grey was beginning to show in Reeves' hair, but his eyes were the same. "Picking up a signal, Captain," Devon said, his fingers dancing across the comms console like he knew better than his own skin. It's bad. Rumor frequency, a civilian colony world called Junga. They're taking heavy orbital bombardment." Morgana, sitting in the tactical station, brought up the long-range scanners. Her jaw tightened. 3 Keeman warships. They're glassing the agricultural sectors. There's no military signatures on that rock. Reeves, it's a slaughterhouse. Those beasts are doing it again, just like when they took Venera. All those lives lost. "Sir," Devon interrupted, his voice dropping an octave, "the Bruma are our primary threat vector in this quadrant. If the Keemans break them here, it weakens their military power near our border zone. Standard Protocol says we observe and report." Devon could not help but smile, knowing what Standard Protocol meant to his captain. Reeves didn't hesitate. He stood up and adjusted his collar. "There is a standard military protocol, and then there are promises made on fire escapes. Devon, drop us right in their teeth. Rusk, I need everything you've got in the pipes." Down in the bowels of the ship, surrounded by screaming cooling lines, Rusk spat a piece of stim gum onto the deck. "You want speed or shields, Cap?" "Both, Rusk. Give me a miracle. You've got 5 minutes before the magnets melt," Rusk grunted, slamming his hand onto the manual output throttle, overriding the safety governor with a brutal twist of his wrist. The ship materialized between the lead Keeman cruiser and the bleeding planet below. "Devon, hail the lead ship," Reeves ordered. The screen flickered to life, revealing a Keeman commander, his features sharp, aristocratic, and entirely devoid of warmth. "Earth vessel, you are trespassing in a contested zone. Correct your course or be dismantled." "This is Captain Reeves of the Earth Federation vessel Unbroken Promise," Reeves said, his voice echoing with absolute authority. "You are firing on an undefended civilian population. Cease your bombardment immediately and withdraw. We can settle this matter of territorial rights before the interspecies tribunal." The Keeman commander let out a dry, clicking laugh. "Tribunal. This world lacks a valid registration under Section 4 of the Galactic Accord. By law, it was empty space, and the organisms on its surface are merely unregistered biological matter. We are within our rights. Move, human." Reeves looked back at Morgana. She gave him a slow, grim nod. She was seething, her targeting reticle already locked onto the head cruiser's primary weapons array. Reeves turned back to the screen. "We don't care about your paperwork. We are duty-bound by oath to move forward in the defense of the innocent. If you do not turn your guns away from Junga, we will force you to." The screen went blank. "They're targeting us," Morgana yelled. "Brace!" It wasn't a fair fight. It was never meant to be. The EFV Unbroken Promise danced through the fire, a sparrow fighting 3 hawks. Morgana fired with terrifying rhythmic precision, burning out 2 of the lead cruiser's shield emitters with precise phaser strikes. But the sheer weight of the Keeman plasma weaponry was overwhelming. "Shields at 14%, Morgana shouted over the roar of exploding consoles. "The secondary cruiser is realigning its orbital cannons towards the southern hemisphere of the planet. We're going after the population centers, fucking monsters." Down in engineering, the air was thick with toxic green plasma smoke. Rusk was coughing, his shirt scorched away, his hands literally holding a crackling conduit valve in place by sheer, stubborn force. "Reeves, the car is turning inside out. I can give you one big push, but that's the end of the line." Reeves sat back in his chair. The bridge was a ruin of sparks and alarms. He looked at Devon. He looked at Morgana. His eyes met Rusk's on the main panel. "My friends," Reeves said, "I don't see any way out of this that gets us home, but—" Morgana cut him off. "Shut up, Reeves," her tone endearing. "Our promise stays unbroken." They looked at one another for what they knew would be their last. "Devon," Reeves said softly, "package the logs. Send the telemetry back to Earth. Let them know what happened here." Devon nodded, his fingers flying across the half-melted keyboard. "Data packet away, Captain. It's been an honor. Morgana, locking navigation onto the lead cruiser's warp core. Rusk, give me that miracle." "Riding the lightning, Cap!" Rusk's voice cracked over the comms, sounding tired but strangely peaceful. "See ya on the other side." Rusk then proceeded to push buttons that an engineer should never, ever push. The Unbroken Promise didn't turn to flee. With its shields entirely gone, its hull venting atmosphere like a dying breath, and various parts of it scattered throughout nearby space. The small human ship ignited its sublight engines to a catastrophic illegal yield. The unbroken promise bore its fangs and became a streak of white-hot light, plunging directly into the heart of the Kleeman flagship. The resulting detonation didn't just destroy the flagship. The kinetic shockwave and cascading warp-field collapse tore through the remaining true cruisers, shattering their hulls and sending the burning remnants of the Kleeman fleet scattering into the atmosphere of Junga like falling stars. Then there was only silence. The data packet sent by Devon never reached Earth Central Command first. It was intercepted by an automated Bruma listing post on the commune of Junga and transferred to the High Council. For 3 days, the Bruma High Council sat in absolute, stunned silence, watching the telemetry over and over again. They watched a ship from a species they considered their bitter enemy, a ship filled with fragile, soft-skinned primates, throw itself into the jaws of a leviathan to save a valley of Bruma farmers they had never met. Fucking glorious! The cultural impact was the tectonic shift. The Bruma did not understand human politics, but they understood the shield wall. They understood dying so that others could live. They understood sacrifice for those who come after. Within a week, the Lord Commander of Bruma stood before his people, his voice booming across every subspace channel in the quadrant. He was an ancient warrior, covered in scars of 100 battles, and his eyes were fierce with a strange, terrible pride. "They had no blood on our soil," the Lord Commander thundered, his fist striking a chest plate like a hammer on an anvil. "They had no treaties with our clans. Yet, when the cowards came to slaughter our children, the humans did not ask for papers or permissions. They did not ask for gold or compensation. They drew their blades, and they bled until glory found them. Hear me, sons and daughters of the high crags. Our ancestors carved a truth into the mountains of our birth. He who stands with me shall be my brother. Humanity did not just stand. They fell so that we might stand. By the blood of the High Council, they are our blood now," as he carved a blade across his hand, drawing his blood in solidarity. "Sir," a young technician stammered, his face pale. "The Bruma Vanguard, they're not advancing towards us. Actually, they've abandoned Sector 7. They're pulling back." "A trap?" the Admiral asked, his hand hovering over the defense matrix keys. "No, sir. They aren't repositioning. They're completely vacated the disputed resource moons. They've left their starbases open, unmanned and unshielded. They're just leaving." Suddenly, a Priority 1 mission overrode every screen in Earth Central Command. It carried the crest of the Bruma High Council, wrapped in the traditional black ribbons and deep mourning. The message was brief, written in an archaic poetic script of the Bruma High clans. "To the cradle of humanity. We have seen the ashes of the unbroken promise. We have heard the final words of your children. You have defended our homes when our own shields failed. A brother does not guard a house against his brother. We have no further use for borders between us. Come, take your place at our hearths." The change was total and irreversible. The Bruma did not merely sign a peace treaty. They integrated it into their lives. They scattered survivors of Junga across the colonies, ensuring that nearly every Bruma family line carried someone whose life was directly bought by human sacrifice. More terrifyingly to the rest of the galaxy, 141 out of the 333 High Command Generals of the Bruma Empire officially declared Dinadar. It was a near-holy, unbreakable oath of blood debt. A general who declared Dinadar to humanity bound their entire lineage to the defense of Earth. They would spend their lives seeking a way to balance a scale that could never truly be balanced. The galaxy had seen alliances before, mercenary agreements built on trade routes, Fearful coalitions to survive tyrants, the legalistic federations held together by red tape. But they'd never seen this. The union of humanity and the Bruma became the first true galactic alliance, born not of ink and paper, but of blood and ash over a field of grain. Humanity brought their stubborn, irrational empathy, their refusal to accept that some lives were worth less than others. The Bruma brought their unyielding, terrifying shield built by an empire of warriors who now viewed the defense of Earth as a sacred, holy duty. Decades later, in the center of the capital city of Junga, a massive monument of black stone was erected, reaching towards the purple sky. It didn't depict a battle. It depicted 4 young humans, sitting on a rusted fire escape, looking up at the stars with drinks raised high. And beneath it, carved in both English and heavy runes of the Bruma, were the words, "They had no blood in our soil, yet they watered our fields with their lives. They had no place at our hearths, yet they threw themselves into the furnace to keep us warm." Here fell the vanguard of humanity. They arrived as strangers. They rest as our eternal brothers. The promise remains unbroken. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Caspar Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.